Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today to bring you a hot take. I'm sure this would be hard to hear, and I know you guys are going to rage in the comments. Arlan is the worst character in the game. Is there anyone willing to debate on this? Okay, no keepers. Let's move on. Arlan has multiple flaws. He has awful scaling, oversaturated stats, high risk gimmick with a low reward. His one unique niche is being completely SP neutral, but even then there are characters that do the same thing, with much stronger and abusable mechanics like Blade. I'd like to believe that every unit in this game can be saved through some form or another, vicariously living off a future unit or relic set that caters to a specific subtype that makes them more powerful while other characters stay relatively static. And so today, we will be discussing ways on how to fix Arlan and how I would present solutions for his awful kit. Here's the deal, if we're going to make a DPS stronger, we need to be realistic about this. There is no monetary incentive for Hoyo to buff Arlan, who is essentially free, much less only him specifically through multiplier fixes or a rework down the line like the other gachas do. If we're gonna talk about fixing Arlan, we don't just pull overpowered units out of thin air that arbitrarily synergizes with everyone or just Arlan himself. It would be completely easy for me to just say, ooh, raise Arlan's multipliers, make him scale better with his stats and all that, but that doesn't really feel right. With that, we're forced into a set of stipulations to make this more interesting and within the realm of possibility. First, we can't touch Arlan's base kit at all. Second, we have to make it have monetary benefit and incentivize whaling. 3. It has to make sense and not break any unspoken rules about the game systems. The first stipulation is easy enough. Instead of buffing Arlan himself, just make his teams better with external sources. Second stipulation ties into that. We will be making a premium fix that will incentivize more whaling for a certain subgroup that Arlan is in. What this means is this supposed Arlan buff should also give reasons to pull units like Blade or Jingliu, characters that are very similar to him that you need to pull and potentially whale for. Third stipulation is a pretty difficult one. We can't mix too much of a harmony abundance hybrid as things can go completely out of control in terms of balance. Thus, we have to make it more specified that this unit has good synergy with Arlan type characters, but not strict enough where it becomes arbitrary and makes them useless everywhere else. With that all of the way, let's get this started, shall we? The first and obvious hurdle is that we have to buff Arlan, but we have to do it in such a way where Blade and Jingliu get less from it than he does, so he can match both of them in power somewhat. Unfortunately, without arbitrary mechanical restrictions, there is no way we can buff Arlan that Jingliu and Blade can straight up just do better because of Arlan's cursed stat line. Instead of stretching the boundaries of reality, and since we do want Jingliu and Blade to get whaled on, this new design will have to make it so that Arlan is at the very least usable, while Jingliu and Blade gets a second life at the meta. That alone is already a gargantuan task that for the sake of this challenge, I think it's pretty fair. Since the damage upgrade we need to make Arlan go from trash to viable is so high, and we want people to spend money, then we can't use relic sets and lightcones to buff him. The damage increase from having those won't be enough to cover for it without threatening a game-wide imbalance. And so we will design a new character, a 5-star at that for more whaling options. We will be using this original character template made by Jazz of Kaching mains. I also consulted one of their Discord members, Echo, for balancing and weeding out imbalanced interactions. Instantly, my mind went to something that I mentioned in my previous videos, Farina from Genshin Impact. Farina is a character that incentivizes fluctuating HP, which is perfect for the subgroup we're trying to build. And since I'm an unoriginal bastard, I decided to adapt her kit to make sense in the Starrail world and rip all the names because I can't trust my cheesy OC writing. I'm worse than a fanfiction writer than I am a YouTuber. Then we go to the second hurdle. What path should Starrail Farina be? We can't necessarily make her Harmony since she would also be team healing to support her HP fluctuation gimmick. This is something that has never been done before in Starrail and I don't want to set a precedent. But there are characters that are Abundance or Preservation that can give buffs. Smaller buffs than Harmonies that it makes them interchangeable, but good enough that people will consider a sustained choice for a specific archetype. So for our path, we will be designing Abundance, and since it hasn't been done yet and Farina looks like a toothpaste brand, we will make her Ice Abundance. Our next problem is what should the buff that this Abundance character give? A small damage percent based on outgoing healing would be very simple enough, but we need a more unique buff to make sense with the defensive nature of Abundance. It shouldn't just be an overloaded damage percent buff that works with with everyone too, and only works with a specific archetype extremely well that goes full risk wanting a full reward. In Genshin, Furina's ultimate gives an effect called Fanfare, which just gives a huge damage boost that increases when you have a high amount of HP fluctuation. We can't directly port that into our Furina since she's abundance. That would be too strong and it doesn't provide outward defensive utility that sustains generally bring. But there is one buff in Starrail that provides both offense and defense. Good old action advance forward. With the ultimate providing Fanfare, it makes sense that if you lose HP, your ally goes into a panic mode and starts speeding up. The more they lose, the more they want a turn to panic heal themselves. But being able to move a lot is in itself a offensive utility without straightforward buffing. Action advance forward is really strong, so balancing this will be a bit daunting. As this message from Echo illustrates, a constant advance forward for any DPS is some insane black magic that we probably shouldn't touch too much. So, to adapt the Fanfare mechanic to HSR, when characters lose HP, the percentage of loss relative to max HP will correspond with Fanfare consumption. Basically, if you lose 20% HP through enemy attacks or by your own hubris, your next turn will be advanced forward by 20%. While I thought a Robin-sized advance forward specific only to HP drain would be cool, I realized that would be completely unbalanced. Again, I need to pull this message up. So, with helpful consulting to prevent game-breaking interactions, the sweet spot of maximum amount of Fanfare you can consume in a single turn is only 20 and ult gives you 60 points. So basically for 3 turns on everyone, you get multiplication on your entire party if they drain enough HP. And if you do manage to run out of Fanfare, you will start healing a massive amount every turn. With that, our base idea is developed. Now that we developed the base idea of her ultimate, we have to make a skill and basic attack that supports it. In Genshin Impact, Furina's skill can summon entities that do different things. The Salon members are a trio that deal damage and drain HP, while the singer is an entity that passively heals everyone. Both can't be active at the same time, but she can switch it at any time for flexible defensive measures or aggressive self-sacrificial measures. To make it fit in the Starrail world without murdering Topaz and Nami, we'll add a little more sizzle to it. I made it so that you can have both entities active, but also add a gameplay element of flexibility going from offensive to defensive. Furina will use her skill and heal whoever she selects, then activates a buff on herself like Huohuo for a set number of turns. Except if Furina selects a party member, she will swap positions with that party member. How does this make sense, you say? Is that just a fun little quirky thing? Well, let's talk about the buff. She will assign roles to her party members like Jade, but based on party positions. Furina herself will always be assigned as a singer, which heals everyone, while characters to her left will be assigned as Salon members, which drain their HP and does small additional damage. And characters to her right will be assigned as singers as well, which again heals everyone. By characters to Furina's left, it means characters with a lesser party position. So if Furina is in slot 3, 1 to 2 will be Salon members, while 4 will be a singer since it's to her right. By doing this, if a fight is so aggressive, you can simply switch Furina to a lesser party position, while non-aggressive enemies or someone like Blade can benefit off another source of HP drain. Both of these situations can be covered by this stand switching. This can get pretty hairy in skill point consumption since changing positions is available only when you spend SP, so I think it's worth it enough and does incentivize low SP HP drainers, which is something Arlan does. I also balance the healing in a way where it's not very strong, but happens very often. For context, her healing ticks are half as strong as Overwatch's ult field, and her other sources of healing like skill and ult are as strong as Link's, which I think is pretty fair for the offensive measures she brings. Let's add a hotfix for her major traces. If a character overheals, everyone else gets healed by a tiny amount, so there isn't any excess from the singers that gets wasted. Since she doesn't have any effect res or cleanse, I decided that her ultimate Fanfare stacks will be used instead if the team gets hit by a crowd control debuff, just so her hyper aggressive phase doesn't get hurt too much by it. Lagging cleanse in the year 2024 is pretty bad, but I also don't want to step on Huohuo's niche, so this is the best I could do. Lastly, rebalance her base stats, give her a funny technique that summons her friends, and also gives her energy so that you can frontload Fanfare immediately, and make her basic attack do nothing. The Abundance Classic. And there we go, Furina and HSR that will make Arlan, Blade, Jingliu much better than they were. Since Furina is capable of the sustain slot, you can still run supports, and thus the DPS of these teams in practice can go at a decently high level due to the sheer amount of turns and rule consolidation. But wait, something's missing. Oh right, Eidolons, lightcones, and a signature relic. Our Eidolons are practically made as reminiscent as Genshin as much as possible. Since Abundance vertical investment is a bit weaker than most, then I decided to flip the script to make Furina sell more. E1 makes her have more damage and healing through HP buffs and speeds up fanfare consumption. This makes her more flexible to non-HP drainers as it gives a fixed floor of advanced forward. Her E2 provides 40 more fanfare on ultimate use and consumes 20 immediately, which is about as strong as a DDD advance and 80% advance that is backloaded. So basically her E2 is a backloaded full Robin ultimate. This originally was meant to be an E1, but the potential of having a healer just have a full Robin ult can have some crazy implications like I said earlier. I feel as though E2 is a perfect enough level for it. Since Hoyo loves their overpowered E1 and E2 so much, I just made that in tribute. E4 makes her not need an ERR rope at all and allows 100% uptime on ult with less SP consumption. E6 allows the HP drain from Salon members to be splashed to the whole party, which is a huge help for Blade and also give a massive amount of damage percent. For her signature, I decided to lean into her positional mechanic as a condition. It isn't impossible for other characters to hit, just that Furina doesn't care about its uptime at all and is a pretty strong buff if you play around it. For her Relic set, I decided to just buff healers in general, giving more general buffs because our current outgoing heal set really sucks. This set does not benefit shielders at all since they're strong enough already. So that's all of it. A abundance unit that gives defensive and offensive measures for HP drainers to expand its specific archetype's overall viability. Honestly, this result will make Arlan viable as much as a 4-star like him can go, and Jingli and Blade will get more turns which achieves a pretty good effect. I feel as though we accomplished the mission we're trying to achieve. I'll give you the kit on screen right now while I mention some team things about this unit. Obviously, the HP drain units will love this character since they just get a straight up multiplication, and Jingliu gets a dance 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 niche. Arlan is fully able to consume all fanfare on his own without much issue, and Blade gets another stack like Jade's mechanic. I didn't want to add too many buffs since I do believe that one day they will design a harmony specified to this character archetype. The strength of this character relies on role compression. She's a sustain on a team that oftentimes is very risky, and thus I couldn't make her give actual buffs in practice. That should be reserved to the harmony slot. Overall, this unit is pretty strong, especially with vertical investment, and has a very cool niche as a puzzle piece for the forgotten HP drain archetype. I think this was a success, and I have the Google Doc of this in the description below. Comment down below what you think of this idea of Furina and Starrail. Well, honestly, I could have named her any type of unit. I just thought she was the easiest one to name, and I'm not a very original writer. Again, like I said. So yeah. Hope you guys like this video. Like, subscribe, do the all algorithm stuff, join my membership if you also want this video early, and I will see you later in the week. Bye bye.